The alien world of Varela was once filled with tall crystal towers, glowing rivers, and floating cities. But now it was quiet. The war had ended 6 months ago, but its scars were everywhere. Buildings were broken, trees were burned. The air still smelled of ash. Eli Vance, a human engineer and linguist, stepped over cracked stone as he entered what used to be a government center. His boots crunched softly. He looked up at the shattered ceiling where stars now shone through. He was here to help rebuild. That was humanity's promise. We fix what we break, and even what we didn't. Eli wasn't a soldier. He didn't carry a weapon. Instead, his belt carried tools, scanners, and a small notebook. He had studied alien languages for years. The Elyari, the race that ruled this world, had once been distant and proud. Now they were broken too, and one of them was watching him. Her name was Captain Alindra V's, a tall warrior with pale silver skin and long platinum hair braided behind her shoulders. She wore purple armor that shimmered with faded symbols. Her pointed ears peeked through strands of hair as she stood in silence, arms crossed. Eli glanced at her and gave a small nod. "I'm trying to reroute power through the old relay crystal," he said. "This thing's ancient. Might predate your calendar system." Alindra didn't reply. She had been assigned as his guard, though she never said why. Maybe the Elyari didn't trust humans alone in their ruins, or maybe Eli thought she was just curious. For 3 days, she had followed him everywhere. Never spoke, never interfered, just watched. That evening, as the twin moons rose, Eli sat near the edge of a broken bridge, legs dangling. He was tired, but he smiled at the view rivers of blue light flowing between mountain peaks. It was still a beautiful world. He spoke softly, not knowing if she was behind him. "You know," he said, "I studied your music once. There was this old Elyari song, something about wind and starlight. I never understood the words, but it made me cry." No answer. He chuckled, brushing dust off his pants. "I guess you didn't hear me? That's okay." He stood up and turned. She was there, not far, just watching. Again he gave a small wave, then walked back to camp. His heart beat faster than it should have. Maybe it was the way her eyes had followed him. Or maybe it was just the silence between them that said more than words could. The next morning, Eli returned to the ruins early. He found an old Elyari console, half buried in debris. Its silver frame was cracked, but the glyphs still glowed faintly. He pulled out his tools and started working. Hours passed. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him. "I brought this," said a quiet voice. He looked up, startled. It was her. She held a round crystal disc in her hands. It pulsed with soft light. "It's a memory core," she explained. "It will help you connect the system faster." Blinked. It was the first time she had spoken to him. "Thank you," said. She placed it beside him and stood there, as if unsure whether to leave. "You understood me last night?" Eli said. She nodded slowly. "I hear more than you think." Eli felt his face grow warm. "I didn't mean to say anything weird. Your people's music is beautiful." Alindra tilted her head. "You're different from the other humans. How so?" "You listen." Over the next few days, something changed. Alindra began to speak more often. She asked questions. She told him the meanings of the symbols on the walls. He shared stories from Earth, funny ones, mostly. She laughed once. It was the softest sound he'd ever heard. They sat together during breaks. She even helped him reattach a power coil, using her energy blade. It surprised him how carefully she handled tools, though she was clearly trained for war. One evening, while cleaning a burnt-out panel, Eli found a carved name inside. "Talyun V's. Is this someone you knew?" he asked. Brushing off the dust, Alindra froze. "My mother. I'm sorry. She must have worked here. She was a high historian. She believed in peace." The council ignored her. Alindra looked away. "She died in the bombing." Eli gently touched the panel. "I'll make sure this console runs again, so her voice isn't lost." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, You speak like one of us, but with your own heart. That night, as he sat in his tent, Eli whispered to himself, I wish I could tell her that I think she's incredible. But he shook his head. She probably didn't hear that either. Outside, a pair of silver eyes glowed softly in the shadows. She had heard everything, and her heart, long buried beneath duty and loss, stirred for the first time in years. The sun on Virella was soft the next morning, casting a warm golden light over the ruins. The wind carried a gentle hum through the broken towers. Like the planet was trying to sing again. Eli Vance stepped out of his tent with a tired smile and a mug of heated real root tea in his hands. He had barely slept, thinking about the moment from last night. Alindra had definitely heard him, but she said nothing. Still, something was different now. When he arrived at the worksite, Captain Alindra, V's was already there, standing beside the old communication pillar. She wasn't watching him from a distance anymore. She was waiting. You're early, Eli said, surprised. So are you, she replied. Almost like a challenge, but her voice was softer than usual. He chuckled and walked over to the control panel. Let's see if your mother's console can talk to the tower today? Alindra raised an eyebrow. It's strange, hearing someone care about these things again. Eli looked at her. They matter. Even broken things deserve to be remembered. She stared at him for a long moment, then gave a small nod. As the day passed, they worked side by side. Eli explained how human translators processed Elyari language differently, and Alindra taught him the correct rhythm to pronounce the old ceremonial phrases. Together, they fixed the alignment crystal, restored to memory cores, and laughed quietly when one old bot unit turned itself on and tried to sell them cooking spices. During a short break, Eli took out a small wooden flute from his bag and began to play a slow, simple melody. Alindra listened in silence. That's a human song? She asked after a moment. He nodded. Something my grandmother used to play. She said it sounded like moonlight. Alindra looked up at the pale sky. People feel deeply. Even your machines show emotion. Some say that's our strength, Eli said. Others say it's our weakness. I think it's rare. Later that afternoon, they visited the library ruins. Most of the scrolls were destroyed, but one section still stood hidden underground. The air was cool and dry as they entered, and the lights flickered weakly from backup power. I never thought I'd walk these halls again, Alindra whispered. Did you study here? Eli asked. No, but my mother did. She brought me here once, long ago. Said it was a place where minds touched the stars. Eli brushed dust off an old terminal. Let's wake some of them up. He worked carefully, hands steady. Alindra watched as he repaired a glyphstone reader, reconnecting wires and humming softly to himself. It took nearly an hour, but when the screen finally lit up with Elyari's script, Alindra took a step closer. You did it, she breathed. No, Eli said, smiling. We did it. That evening, as the sky turned orange, they sat together beneath a broken archway. The silence between them was no longer awkward. It was calm, like they both belonged there. Alindra removed her armored gloves and looked at her. Hands I was trained to fight, not to feel. Eli turned to her. But you still feel. That's what matters. She glanced at him, eyes unreadable. Most humans I met during the war, they only cared about victory. Eli nodded slowly. I know, some of us lost our way, but many of us came to fix it. That's why I'm here, to fix the ruins. 2. Fix trust, he said quietly. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, You remind me of someone from the old stories. A human, ... in Elyari tales. A traveler who spoke to stars and healed broken moons. Eli laughed softly. I'm just a guy with a tool belt and bad hair. She gave the smallest smile. As the stars came out, they walked back to camp together. Eli felt like the air between them had changed. Not heavier, not lighter, just closer. Before. They reached the tents. Eli stopped. I'm glad you heard me that night, he said. Alindra looked at him. I hear more than I show, I know, Eli replied. Then, with a small breath, he added, I don't expect anything from you. Just thank you for being here, for trusting me. Lindra turned to face him fully. For the first time, she reached out and gently touched his arm. You're not like the others, she said. You listen, and you care. Eli couldn't speak for a moment. Her touch was light, but her words were strong. Then she stepped back, silent once more, and disappeared into her tent. The morning wind blew softly across the ruins of Varela. Sunlight touched the broken stones, and the sky glowed with the pale blue of a new day. It should have been peaceful, but something felt off. Eli Vance rushed across the worksite, holding a toolkit in one hand and a scanner in the other. He had heard the sound of a blast earlier, and now smoke rose from the far side of the old council chambers. When he arrived, he saw the damage. A wall had collapsed. Debris covered the ground, but what made his heart stop was the sight of someone. Kneeling in the middle of the dust, it was Captain Alindra Vess. Her one-sprout armor was cracked across the shoulder and chest, glowing faintly with sparks. One side of her face had a cut. She was breathing heavily, but she didn't cry out. Alindra. Eli dropped to his knees beside her. Are you hurt? I'm fine, she said through clenched teeth. She's surprised. You call this surprised? You almost got crushed. He scanned her with a portable med pad. No broken bones, but she was bruised. Her armor had protected her, but just barely. Why were you even in there alone? Eli asked, frustration and worry. Mixing in his voice, I heard movement. I thought it was one of your machines, she answered. It was an unstable wall. I misjudged. Eli shook his head. Should have waited for me. This isn't a battlefield anymore. Lindra looked away. It's habit. Sighed and offered his hand. Come on, let's get you to the med tent. She hesitated, then took it. Later, inside a small tent with soft lights. Eli carefully removed the damaged pieces of her armor. She sat on a bench, silent and still, like a statue. Her long braid had come loose, strands of platinum hair falling across her shoulders. Eli placed the armor plates on a table beside him. Some were cracked all the way through. These pieces are ceremonial, aren't they? He asked quietly. Yes, Alindra said. They were passed down to me, from my mother, and from her mother before her. Eli touched one of the shoulder guards. Faded glyphs were carved into the metal. This one tells a story, right? Alindra nodded. It means stand firm even in fire. He turned the piece in his hands, inspecting the fractures. I can fix it, he said softly. But I'll need time and care. She glanced at him. You treat it like something alive. It is, he said. Just like you. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, the tent was completely quiet. Over the next 2 days, Eli worked on the armor carefully. He cleaned every piece, polished the old Elyari metal, and used tiny welding tools to seal the cracks without erasing the glyphs. Alindra sat nearby most of the time, watching him. She rarely spoke, but her silence was not cold anymore. Was calm like trust in progress. One night, while repairing the chest plate, Eli began to hum the same soft tune from his flute. He didn't realize he was doing it until he saw her eyes shift toward him. You always hum when you work, she said. He smiled. It helps me focus. My grandmother used to say music keeps the hands gentle. Alindra looked at the nearly finished armor. You have gentle hands? Eli paused. His heart skipped a beat. Only because I'm afraid of breaking what matters, he replied. Her expression changed something between surprise and surprise. Later, as he finished placing the last piece on the table, he said, I restored the strength, but I didn't hide the scars. I thought maybe it should stay as part of the story. Lindra walked over and touched the repaired chest plate. Her fingers traced the repaired cracks. They belong there, she said. Even strength must remember pain. Eli sat down, suddenly nervous. Can I ask you something? She turned to face him. Yes, when the wall fell. Were you afraid? Alindra hesitated. Then slowly she said yes, but not of death. Then she looked directly at him now. I was afraid I would not see you again. Eli didn't know what to say. His throat tightened. Words didn't come easily this time, and then she added, "You risked your life to reach me. That matters more than you know." That night, neither of them slept. Eli sat under the stars again, notebook open, but his hand unmoving. It didn't need to write anymore. Everything he felt was already clear in his heart. Across the camp, Alindra stood outside her tent, looking up at the sky. She wasn't thinking about duty or war. She was thinking about a human one who repaired not just armor, but something inside her. The next morning, Alindra arrived at the work site wearing her newly repaired armor. It shined in the sunlight and the symbols glowed faintly, like they had found their voice again. "You wear it well," Eli said with a smile. She looked at him and said, "You fixed more than the plates, Eli." He smiled, stepping closer. Just followed the lines. They were already beautiful. Alindra reached up and touched her shoulder, where one crack still showed. "Not perfect," she said. "No," Eli replied, "but real." And in that moment, something unspoken passed. Between them, stronger than words, deeper than duty, a bond, quiet and unshakable, had formed. The winds on Varela had changed. They no longer carried ash and sorrow. They carried the soft sounds of rebuilding, quiet laughter, and something warmer than hope. Eli Vance worked beside the now-functioning communication tower, adjusting the calibration. He could hear El Yari and human engineers talking nearby. Alindra was not there that morning, and though no one said anything, Eli felt her absence in his chest like a missing heartbeat. She had been called to the main council Citan, unexpected. Summons he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Hours later, Alindra returned. She walked straight toward Eli, her face calm, but her eyes stormy. Her armor shimmered in the light, fully repaired now, the cracks still visible like quiet memories. "They want you gone," she said without delay. Eli stood frozen. "What? The Illyri High Council has declared the human team's presence unnecessary. They say the rebuilding can continue without you." Eli's voice was quiet. "Why now?" "Because they saw us," she replied, her tone sharper than usual. "Together, speaking, working, trusting. And that scares them more than war ever did." Eli's throat felt dry. "We did nothing wrong. We showed them what unity looks like," Alindra said, "and that is powerful. Too powerful for those who still fear change." He sat down slowly on a nearby stone, staring at the dusty ground. "So that's it. I go home." "And what? Forget all this." "I don't want you to leave," Alindra whispered. Her voice trembled slightly. "But I must obey their order. For now." Silence stretched between them like a long shadow. Then Eli said softly, "I guess she never cared." He didn't know if he meant Alindra or the council. Maybe both. He stood, turned, and walked away without another word. He didn't see the way her eyes followed him, full of things she couldn't say. Not yet. That night, Eli sat near the river at the edge of the ruins. The twin moons reflected off the water like two silent watchers. He had packed most of his tools already. Tomorrow, the shuttle would come. His heart felt heavier than the gear. On his back, he spoke softly into the wind,
Out.
not knowing if it would carry his voice anywhere. "I thought she didn't hear me." And then a voice came from behind. "But I did." Eli froze. He turned. Alindra stood there, glowing silver in the moonlight. Her braid moved gently in the breeze. Her armor was off. She wore a simple robe of deep violet, and for the first time, she looked unguarded. "I heard everything," she said, stepping closer. "That night, when you spoke by the broken bridge, and today, when you said I didn't care." "I'm sorry," Eli said quickly, guilt rising in his chest. "I was upset. I didn't mean it." She shook her head. "No, you meant it. And I don't blame you." Eli looked away. "Then why are you here?" "'Cause I had to say something before you leave." He turned back to her, searching her face. She took a deep breath, then said the words that would change everything. "I'd be honored to be yours." Eli's breath caught. He opened his mouth to reply, but nothing came out. His mind was blank, his heart full. She stepped closer, just a few inches away now. "I do not speak lightly. The Elyari bond is sacred. We choose with care, and I choose you. Eli still couldn't speak. His eyes stung slightly, and his hands trembled. Alindra smiled softly. You don't have to say anything now. Finally found his voice. You waited until the last night to say that. I waited until I knew my heart, she replied, and it speaks your name. They sat beside the river together, shoulders nearly touching, their reflections dancing in the water. Alindra told him of a dream she once had. Before the war where stars fell into her hands and whispered truths she didn't understand. She thought it was just a vision, but now I think, she said, one of those stars was you. Eli laughed gently. You're better with words than I am. No, she said. I just had more time to learn silence. He looked at her, and for the first time since arriving on Virella, he felt completely seen. Not as a human, not as a visitor, but as himself. Back at camp, Eli unpacked one last Atoma tiny metal box. Inside was a smooth Elyari crystal he had found weeks ago. One Alindra once admired. He had carved a pattern into it, her name in both Elyari script and Earth English. He handed it to her. She stared at it, then at him. You made this for me? I didn't know if I'd get the chance to give it. She held it close to her chest. Then I will carry it always. As dawn began to rise, the shuttle arrived quietly on the edge of the clearing. Eli turned to her one last time. I don't want this to be goodbye, he said. It isn't, Alindra said firmly. This is the beginning. I will find my way to Earth, Eli smiled. I'll wait for you, as long as it takes. She nodded, and as the wind whispered once more through the ruins of Virella, their bond remained stronger than walls, deeper than fear, and written in silence no longer. The shuttle lifted off from the surface of Virella. Leaving behind a swirl of dust and silence, Eli Vance sat inside, staring out the small window as the planet shrank below him. His hands were clenched tightly in his lap. Everything inside him felt like it was being left behind, especially her. Alindra V's, the Elyari warrior, who once only watched from a distance, had become the center of his thoughts. And now she was gone from sight, but not from his heart. They had shared a truth, a moment, a promise. But promises were hard to hold when planets stood between you. Back on Virella, Lindra stood at the same riverbank where they had last sat together. The water flowed quietly, like it remembered them. In her hand was the smooth crystal Eli had gifted her, marked with both their names. She wore it around her neck now. Under her uniform, hidden, but never forgotten. The Elyari High Command had already questioned her once since his departure. You were too close to the human, one of the elders had said. He is not just a human, Lindra had answered. They didn't like that. Now she was restricted. No more visits to the human camps. No personal contact with Earth delegates. But they could not control what she felt, or what she planned. 2 weeks passed. Eli returned to Luna Base, Earth's station on the moon. He tried to focus on his work language. Decoding, system design, helping other teams prepare for interplanetary aid. But his heart was never fully in it. Every night, he sat by a wide observation window, looking at the stars, wondering which one held her gaze at that same moment. He missed her calm voice, her quiet strength, her rare, honest smiles. One night, he finally said aloud, I need to tell her I haven't forgotten. And so he began to build something. In a small lab on Luna Base, Eli worked late each night. He designed a Gifton artifact using both human and Elyari tech. It was shaped like a moonflower, a delicate earth flower that opened only in moonlight. Its petals were made from folded metal and crystal. Inside, a message was stored. It said only this: even when the sky forgets your name, I will not. The artifact would be sent aboard a diplomatic data packet bound for Virella. He wasn't sure if she would ever receive it, but he had to try. Meanwhile, Alindra trained alone at the edge of a ruined courtyard. Her blade sliced the air like silver. Lightning. Her movements were precise, but her heart was far away. A voice interrupted her. You're still not letting go of the human, are you? It was Commander Tristan, one of her old comrades. Alindra lowered her sword. I will not erase what matters. He is gone. No, she said firmly. He's waiting. The commander shook his head. You risk your future, your position, your honor. She looked him in the eye, then let it all burn. One day later, an aide entered her chamber and handed her a small, sealed device. It came from Earth. Personal item. Approved by the lower council. Alindra opened the box slowly. Inside was the MOON. She touched the metal petals gently, and the device lit up. Soft blue light shimmered, and Eli's voice played. Alindra, if you're hearing this, then I guess someone up there didn't. Block me, I just wanted to say. I remember everything. I still carry it all. I don't know when or how, but I believe we'll meet again. Until then, this is my promise. I will never forget. Alindra closed her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she smiled not just with her lips, but with her whole heart. Months passed. Earth and Varela exchanged more messages. New ambassadors arrived. Talks about peace and rebuilding continued. Then one day, a quiet message reached Luna Base. It had no official seal, no military code. Just one simple line in the old El Yeri dialect. I have not burned. I have bloomed. Eli read it over and over. He didn't need more than that. She was coming. Back on Varela, Alindra made her decision. She resigned from her military role, not with shame, but with pride. She would return to the stars not as a soldier, but as herself, as someone who chose her own path. And at the docking bay, as her ship prepared for launch, she wore no armor. Just a robe the color of twilight and a pendant that held a crystal, the same one he gave her. She whispered softly, I'm coming, Eli. Far above on Earth's moon, Eli stood at the same observation window. He didn't know the time, didn't know the day, but he knew this much. Love across stars is rare, but it's real. And as he stared into the endless black dotted with light, a single whisper passed through the stillness of space, a whisper only hearts like theirs could hear. The sky above Luna Base shimmered with the soft glow of Earthlight. Ships came and went. People worked, talked, and laughed in the busy spaceport halls. But Eli Vance waited quietly near the outer platform, far from the noise. He stood beside the edge of the observation deck, holding a small cloth bag in his hand. Inside was something simpler. Pendant carved with El Yari script, and a small human star map etched behind it. A gift for someone who still hadn't returned, but had promised she would. It had been almost a year since he last saw her. That night by the river on Varela, when she whispered the words he would never forget, I'd be honored to be yours. And now the day had come. The announcement echoed through the hallway. Incoming diplomatic ship from Varela Sector 3, docking at Bay 12. Eli's heart raced. He walked toward the platform slowly, unsure if his legs would carry him all, though. Way. The doors hissed open. El Yari officials stepped out, first dressed in formal robes, tall and graceful, their expressions calm and distant. Then she stepped out. Alindra V's. She wore a dark blue travel robe, embroidered with symbols of peace. From both Earth and El Yari cultures, her silver hair was braided back, but a few loose strands framed her face. Around her neck hung a small silver chain lie. Recognized the crystal he gave her, and in her eyes deep, quiet glowing, was the light of 1,000 memories. He didn't move. Neither did she. Not at first, then Alindra walked straight toward him. The sound of her steps was drowned by the beating in his chest. When they stood face to face, no words came, not right away. Eli looked into her eyes and saw something shining there. Not tears. Not pain. Stars, you came, he whispered. I said I would, she replied. Voice soft. I didn't know if you could, Eli said. I had to fight to get here, Alindra said gently. But I never stopped walking toward you. Even when the stars felt far away. Eli held out the small bag. I made you something, he said with a nervous smile. She took it, opened it, and smiled, truly smiled. Your craft has improved. I had a good reason to practice. Together, through the gardens of Luna Base, away from the crowds. Flowers from both earth and varela grew, here blue crystal lilies beside soft earth moss. The air smelled fresh, peaceful. I left my old rank, Alindra said. I came not as a soldier, not as a diplomat, but as myself. And that's all I ever wanted, Eli said. Just you. They sat beside a still pond, watching the reflections of Earth's curve above them. It wasn't easy, she said after a while. Some Elyari still think humans are reckless, too emotional, too loud. We are all those things, Eli said with a grin. But Alindra continued, they forget your other side, your strength, your honesty, your heart. She turned to him. You changed me, Eli. Not with force, but with kindness. You changed me, he replied. You made me believe love can survive stars. Later, they walked through the cultural wing of Luna Base, where Earth and Elyari art was displayed. Side by side, there they saw a small piece titled Silent Bond. It was a sculpture, half human, half Elyari. Joined at the hands but facing opposite directions, Alindra paused in front of it. This was made by an Elyari artist, she said quietly. It represents forbidden love. Eli looked at the sculpture. Then it's missing something. What? The ending. He reached for her hand. This time, she didn't hesitate, and when their fingers touched, the moment felt like home. The following days passed in quiet joy. They worked together on joint translation programs. Alindra visited Earth for the first time, standing barefoot. On real grass, Eli showed her the sunset from a small cabin near the sea, where orange skies touched endless waves. She listened to Earth music, sometimes confused, sometimes smiling, but every night they sat under the stars. And no matter where they were, on Earth or Luna Base, or watching a distant ship launch, they knew one thing. They were no longer walking alone. Months later, during a ceremony between Earth and Elyar leaders, Alindra stood on the stage in her new role, not a warrior, but an ambassador of unity. She gave a short speech. Her voice was steady. Her words were few, but she ended with something personal. Once I was told that humans speak too loudly, she said, smiling softly. But one human spoke softly and I heard him. In the crowd, Eli's heart swelled. He remembered the moment by the ruined bridge, when he thought she hadn't heard his quiet words, but she had, and now the whole galaxy knew. That night, as stars filled the sky above Earth, Alindra and Eli sat beside a small lake under the trees. The air was cool. The water reflected the moon. Alindra looked up. Do you still carry that first notebook? Eli pulled it from his bagworn, faded but still whole. He opened it to the first page. She listens. She sees more than I thought. I don't know what this is becoming, but it's worth every moment. Alindra smiled, leaning her head gently on his shoulder. And now, she asked. He added one more line beneath it. It became everything. And above them, stars watched in silence just as they had from the beginning.